All right, I guess we can start here. Thanks everyone for attending the webinar. My name is Ivan. I am an OT cybersecurity practice lead for UDV Technologies. And I've been in cybersecurity and OT cybersecurity specifically for 7 years now, coming from the network engineering background. So thanks again for taking the time, and let's move on to the topic, which is secure remote access for corporate OT infrastructures. Oh, and before I start, um, just to make this clear, if you have any questions as we go with the presentation, just feel free to ask them in the chat or in Q&A, and we will deal with them either as we go or after the presentation. All right. So let's kick off the presentation. So to start the whole discussion, let's talk about how we as IT, as cybersecurity guys, typically see the OT infrastructure of the company. So basically, for a typical IT engineer, OT infrastructure is a network of numerous devices, and in by that I mean unfamiliar devices, something like SCADA servers, like programmable logic controllers, the human machine interfaces, and etc., which are not really familiar, are not really common in the IT world. They do operate on their own protocols. They do use their own peculiar logic that may or may not be clear if you are not in the OT industry. But on the other hand, what we want from our OT infrastructure is having a safe and smooth and reliable operation, bringing the stable product quality with zero downtime, and if all goes well, requiring minimum human interference to run. And then what we can add to the picture is that is something that is universal for all regions of the world, in fact. And the thing is that there is a shortage of qualified engineering and cybersecurity personnel that are familiar with OT technologies. And therefore, we have a dilemma that we have something complex, we want to make it safe, we want to make it reliable, but we do not have the resources. So the answer that the world came with to this dilemma is using remote teams. And by remote teams, I mean it can be either the own company's workforce that is distributed between several facilities or production sites, or it may be subcontractors that are working with the company's OT, or it may be vendor support for your industrial control systems, etc. So we use these remote teams to achieve our desired outcomes. And of course, just to mention, the biggest boost to remote work and remote operation was the COVID pandemic. And although it's mostly over, at this point in time, we can definitely say that the remote access is here to stay, and we have to work with it as in as secure a way as we can. And another thing about cybersecurity here is the OT connectivity that is increasing more and more as years go by. And the thing is that OT systems, unlike traditional IT systems, were designed for very prolonged life cycles with all the safety checks and resilience built into the system. However, they were never specifically cybersecurity enabled from the start. And on this slide right here, you have a few facts that come from Clarity's very own observations based on the devices connected to Clarity XDome, the cloud-based platform. And what you see here is the fact number one is that 13% of the HMIs, the human machine interfaces, and engineering workstations maintain an insecure connection to the internet. Well, that is might be good, might be bad. But what is even worse is that 36 of these devices have at least one vulnerability that is actively exploited in the real world. So when you connect the two, then you can easily see that it can only take one device that has an insecure connection to the internet and the vulnerability that is actively exploited. And by saying actively exploited, I do not really mean like someone like hackers trying to push their way into your infrastructure, although that can also be the case. But just botnets or automated scripts searching for entrance points. That's when this vulnerability can come into play, and that's what can make this device a gateway into your infrastructure. And the consequences of having adversaries in your OT infrastructure can be disastrous. Out of the recent happenings, I think you can think about Jaguar Land Rover that had to halt the operations, leading to drastic consequences for the company, for its subcontractors, even for the government and general public. So that's a huge incident that is still ongoing. Or maybe you can think about Varta, the big electrical brand, or Dole, the global food producer. They all had to halt production lines, take financial and reputational disasters, and deal with the losses. And it doesn't really, what I wanted to stress here, it doesn't really matter what industry you are in. So be that oil and gas, be that manufacturing, or even like something like food production. You are always in the crosshair of the adversaries that are looking for the ways to deliver the impact and everything. And if that was not enough in itself, there are also external factors at play, which kind of eliminate the option of just, let's say, when we talk securing our infrastructure, well, let's just air gap everything. Let's just unplug the network from the internet. Let's just make it isolated, and then we're secure, right? Well, yes and no, because for having the system air gapped, you just can't do that because you will be losing productivity, and for the overwhelming majority of businesses, the demand for system productivity comes from the main business unit. So that means that your own engineering teams and third-party engineering teams must have access to critical assets to ensure the uptime, the efficiency, and, for example, improve something that is known as a mean time to repair. So when something goes wrong, you have to diagnose that, you have to fix it, and do all the necessary things to get it running again. And the second thing is that the attackers, the adversaries, are constantly searching for a way in, and the malware currently, as we are speaking, and in 2025, is at the all-time height of its accessibility and ease of deployment. So the malware has turned itself into a product even, and it can come as a service. So it's very easy to deploy. It's very easy to use, to start using it. And having these two factors combined is a really big challenge for every OT infrastructure and for every CISO and for every person responsible for cybersecurity. And the last but not the least here, the governments recognize the risk posed to general public safety if the infrastructures of industrial companies like you may be working in are breached and the impacts are delivered. And therefore, governments develop regulations, they develop mandatory checklists and standards to make sure that cybersecurity stays a priority for the companies. And that by itself is also an external pressure factor that all come together on the cybersecurity team trying to protect the OT infrastructure. So let's go deeper into the OT specific situation and remote access to OT. Now, a few questions that you might want to ask yourself when dealing with, when considering secure remote controls are like here on the slide. So the number one question is, what is the scope of your secure access program? So meaning which assets out of your infrastructure do require remote access? Where are they located in terms of geographical location, but also in relation to the purview model that is typically used to describe OT environments? Are they limited to IT infrastructure maybe, so just servers and workstations, or do they include field devices like programmable logic controllers that are in closest proximity to the analog world, so to say? And the second question is, what level of user access and control is required? So is it about collecting logs and events in like a read-only mode, take a syslog, keep it somewhere, process it remotely? Or is it about modifying configurations? Is it about doing some corrections to the system as it runs? And if it's about modifying configurations, do you keep track of the connections and modifications that people make to your system? And if you do, then where do you record the sessions? Where do you keep these records for them to be easily accessible if you need to pass an audit or something like that? And of course, one of the most important questions, which frameworks of regulation do you need to align with, which frameworks are mandatory for your company? So be that IEC 62443, be that maybe a local to GCC, NCA, ECC, or even OTCC cybersecurity controls, or something else like EU directives and so forth. So if all of the answers on all of these questions would reflect on the security measures that you need to implement in your infrastructure. But then here is the obvious thing. So as much as we have established the need for secure access, we know that the IT world has long had multiple remote access tools of various nature, something like cloud-based services. Some services are full-time on-premise, VPNs and remote desktops, and everything that is just there and it can be used. It looks like it can be used with the OT infrastructure. Well, the answer is yes and no, and there are four essential cornerstones to that. Number one being productivity. So OT-specific tools are designed to support operational outcomes and minimize risks for the OT, because at all times, what you want to do is to have your OT running in a resilience and to have safety enabled, to have it operating, controlling the technical process that happens in the real world. So for IT tools, that is not always the case. The second thing is security. So basically, if you are a CISO, a security engineer, you and your team are working really hard to secure the assets. And every access tool should drive that security further, not make it compromised, not increase the surface that is now accessible to the attacker. The third thing is administration. And I'm sure you can relate here because for identity governance and access management, you have to have OT knowledge of how to work with the OT system in terms of provisioning users, giving them privileges, and then taking those privileges back and removing users from the system. Doing all of that in manual mode in OT systems really is a hassle. And what we see in the real world is that companies most often would just create some sort of admin credentials that are shared between the subcontractors, or maybe give them each subcontractor a set of credentials and then use that credentials for all operations that they have to do on the system. And that is unsecure by design. And finally, the compliance. So if you are using traditional IT, it's kind of it's another issue of logging and reporting network changes in real time. And therefore, if you are undergoing compliance audit, you're going to have a challenge in trying to assess what changes has been made in the recent time, when, and how exactly to revert them back, and so forth. So as you can see from these arguments, IT tools kind of fall short. And what's worse, they even add risk to your environment. So just to give you a brief description, let's say if you create a VPN connection to your network, then that means that you have to not only limit the scope of the nodes accessible from that VPN, but you should also watch what is happening on the VPN, whether maybe the connected party is really the guys that you gave access to, and maybe they're trying to exploit something, or willingly or unwillingly. So let's say they have they had a incident themselves they do not know about yet, but having that VPN connection to your network can lead to that incident taking some sort of kind of a lateral movement into your infrastructure, and then it will become an issue for your business as well. So how does Clarity meet the needs of industrial customers that just like yourselves and other large and mid-sized enterprise companies in the world? So for Clarity, the answer is Clarity Secure Remote Access, and it's a solution that has been designed for working specifically in OT and cyber physical infrastructures. So Clarity Secure Remote Access is not about opening another hole and opening into your infrastructure for everyone that has credentials, a certificate, or a certain client for a VPN service. Rather than that, SRA enables secure operations for your mission-critical assets. The engineering teams can gain access they need from anywhere and at any time, whenever they need it, while security teams that operate inside the company have total visibility and understanding of access requests and every associated risk. And for OT asset owners, Clarity SRA is a single tool to manage all access and asset visibility. So let's go into a bit more details of the outcomes that come with using Clarity Secure Remote Access. Now, four main outcomes here include, most importantly, improved productivity, and that means that typically companies save hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours by minimizing operational inefficiencies. So having everything brought together into a single solution, into a graphical interface with intuitive controls, with ability to do everything very quickly and keep control of everything is good thing at all times. For second thing, the minimized risk here, and we are talking about having all access securely locked down to minimize and have a clear understanding of the risks associated with every connection that we allow into our network. And actually, remote access finally makes sense for the system admins in terms of provisioning the access and maintaining control over internal and external parties using it. So giving access, revoking, changing privileges is all a matter of a very easy working with the solution. And finally, important compliance requirements are naturally met. So we do have a list of the standards requirements that are dealt with by using Clarity SRA. So if you're interested, please just request it from us and get in touch, and we will share so you could see for yourself. So let's go a bit more technical now and look at how the solution actually works to deliver these outcomes. So the SRA, as I've said, has been specifically designed for the OT to address the existing limitations and facilitate the seamless experience for engineering and security teams in working together to maintain secure remote access to the OT infrastructure. Basically, the main thing is that the deployment of Clarity remote access is agentless. So there is no software agent to be installed on the endpoints, on the engineering workstations, etc. And the solution works really well even under high latency and poor network conditions. And unfortunately, as much as I hate to say this, the poor network conditions and high latency is still a thing in the world of OT. So all access controls are designed with zero trust principles in mind. So everything is logged with video recorded for every session for later audit. And that enables security teams to see who has been doing what and when exactly. So another option is real-time monitoring of every action as the engineering team is actively working on changing configurations, etc. So in terms of the components, SRA is basically just two main components, and one of them is the access manager, that is the management node for the installation, and an access point that is deployed at each site, and that is used to actually connect to the endpoints and provide access to the assets for remote teams. And the thing is that the SRA is very scalable here, so you can actually choose full-time on-premise installations for total control over the infrastructure, so no traffic leaves your network, or you can take advantage of a hybrid environment where the access manager is actually managed by Clarity in their cloud, and you will still have your access points deployed in the local infrastructures, but the access manager will be cloud-based. So it's flexible. You can go here or you can go there. It's all up to the enterprise policies and the current cybersecurity program that you are running. Now that we have looked at how things work from a technical point of view, we have another important question to answer here, and the question is, when is the right time to think and to deploy the secure remote access? And to answer this question, I'd say that one thing we have to recognize is that cybersecurity is not really a step or a product or a solution. It's rather can be described as a journey. And Clarity's platform approach is aimed at helping your business on this journey, from initial awareness about what's going on in your infrastructure, what parts are inside, what are the traffic flows, all the patterns and everything, to day-to-day cybersecurity process optimization. So in terms of OT cybersecurity, I would put it this way. So when you have already enabled some sort of an asset visibility, and that is by far one of the most important parts of establishing OT cybersecurity, because I'm sure you have heard the saying that you cannot protect what you don't know. So in order to secure the OT, the cyber physical infrastructure, you have to know all about it. So what happens there? What models do you have? What devices are talking to the internet? Which devices are receiving traffic from the internet, and so forth. So you need to understand that in order to be able to secure that infrastructure. And when you have already have that, then establishing and maintaining secure remote access is one of the foundational cornerstones, along with other important areas of cybersecurity, of course. But secure access is one of the key things you want to deploy to drive you the outcomes that your business desires from the operational technology. So the answer to questions like, do I need to focus on secure access now, or is my cybersecurity posture mature enough? I would say it's always yes. So the best time is right now. And if you are all considering secure remote access, then it is time to take steps and to try and to implement certain solutions in your infrastructure. So to summarize everything that we have been talking about, so a few points here on the slide. So one thing, what we can definitely say is that the OT infrastructure requires proper cybersecurity due to high criticality of the assets. And I think that it is not even a matter of discussion, it's just a fact. What we have also seen is that traditional IT solutions increase risk and exposure of the assets just because they have not been made for OT infrastructures that are different from the IT world. And therefore, OT requires solutions that are developed with the OT characteristics in mind. So agentless, capable of working in high latency conditions, etc. Secure by design, zero trust principles, everything, it has to be built into the solution from the start. And hopefully, I have kind of given you the idea that the Clarity Secure Remote Access is the answer to challenges associated with remote workforce in OT environments. But to be completely honest, I would really advise you not to just take me on my word here, but let us prove these points. Uh, we would be definitely happy to give you a detailed deep dive session into the SRA, to have a live demo maybe, or to have a POC in your infrastructure so you could see for yourself how it works, and see everything is how everything feels when you manage remote access from a single point. So I definitely encourage you to get in touch with UDV Technologies for further steps. And my, my final slide here, why choose UDV Technologies? We are a partner of Clarity. We do have certified engineering team that is delivering services to our customers. So basically, our whole idea is helping companies in their journey to the digital world and making the journey safe. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now, or either in the chat or by unmuting your microphones, or just get in touch with us at the later stage. We are always there and we are always happy to answer the questions. Thanks again for taking the time to visit this webinar. And I guess that's it from my side.